What's up, friends? Welcome to I Said What I Said. I have a bunch of different topics that I want to go through today, and I kind of want to start with this new thing that I've been talking about, Ria and Roman. I kind of want to talk about like comparisons between the two. They are so similar in like the trajectory of like where they've been and where they're going, and I don't know if it's really talked about that much outside of like, oh, like they're basically like unbeatable or whatever, like outside of that. So I kind of want to talk about that today. So let's break this down a little bit. So starting with Ria. So Ria has just always been like the baby face. And I think she's always going to be the baby face because people just love and adore her. And I totally hear that. But she should be the heel in this story. Like Liv is justified in what's happening. And I feel like that's gotten lost a lot. And I understand like Rhea's fans are gonna back her and be like, no, like Liv's in the wrong, whatever, fuck Liv, that's fine. But I think in a general, like it's not even really talked about in the storyline how Liv is justified for like everything that she's done to Rhea. And Liv talks about it, but it kind of still like doesn't really get acknowledged too often. But like think back, if we're talking about like Rhea and Dom, for example, that relationship was toxic. We all loved it, we all enjoyed it. Like I was one of those people. I loved them. I literally was like, there's no way that I would ever be okay with them breaking up Rhea and Dom because I just loved it. It gave us so many like cool, funny, viral moments and like it's just so much fun to watch every week. I was like, there's literally no way until Liv entered the storyline. I was like, wait a minute, this would actually be really fucking cool. But it was at its foundation a toxic relationship. And like that doesn't have to be like necessarily in this context because it's storyline like some negative thing like or like it doesn't have to be like construed as like bad mouthing it, if that makes sense. Like it's all fun, it's all games, it's all in the storyline, like it's whatever. But I feel like Rhea fans get really offended when you say that because it kind of puts like Rhea as kind of like the toxic person, but like that's the point. That was always the point. Like there were aspects of the relationship that wasn't toxic, but in its like basis, it was a toxic relationship, which again, totally fine. I loved it. We all loved it. It was a great, fun time, but like it was what it was essentially, right? So on top of that, Rhea did turn on Liv. Rhea did take out Raquel. She did take out Liv. Like she did do all of these things that led Liv, Dom, and Raquel to kind of like come together against Rhea. And I think that all makes sense. Obviously, Rhea is still the babyface in this scenario. But what's interesting to me is like, we've kind of been there, done that with the Liv Rhea thing. Like, Liv is justified, but nobody's going to ever like really acknowledge that or bring that up too much. Now, it's kind of giving me like deja vu with like Roman right now and kind of like where he is in his storyline with like the bloodline and everything, because when we just watched on Friday, Sami Zayn comes out and he's like, I'll help you if you apologize to Jay. Roman doesn't apologize to Jay, but Sami still like helps. He puts the one up, they do the whole thing. So for me, I was kind of like, why is Sami just like immediately going back on his word? Like I love what they've done with Jay where he's like, I've already been like part of your bloodline. You are not the leader of me anymore. I am done. I am free of you. I am not going back there. Like you do not boss me around and tell me what to do. And I love that Jay is like standing on business for that. Like I love that because I think Sami should be doing the same thing. And I don't know if Sami is going to do that or not really. I'm kind of, it seems like he's not, but I'm unsure. But like, it's very similar because the bloodline, like, and again, I didn't always love it, but most people loved that storyline. They loved the group. They loved the whole like dynamic and everything. But like, that was also toxic. Like that was Roman being very like, it was like a mentally abusive relationship. Although in some matches, a little physically abusive too, but that's a whole separate thing. But like, it's that same like manipulator characteristics that Roman has that Rhea had with Dom. And kind of with Liv too. She didn't really have like Rhea didn't really have like a relationship really with Raquel, but it's that same dynamic that has like been broken up. And Roman is somehow still like the baby face. I do think Jay competes with him on that, which is really cool. But it gives me like that similar vibe to like should be the heel, somehow is the baby face, and you're kind of having to fight against that a little bit. Because, like, for a minute, I was like, I said to Johnny on the podcast, I was like, if Sami goes with Solo, do you think Sami has the power to, like, still get cheered? Even if he goes against Roman? Johnny was unsure. I was like, I think he might. Like, it's kind of like Kofi Kingston, where it's like, who hates Sami Zayn? Really, no one. Like, old Sami Zayn, I hated like conspiracy Sami Zayn, but like this Sami Zayn, no one hates this Sami Zayn. So I do think it would have been cool to see him kind of side with Solo, but he's not going to turn against Jay, and I hear that, and that's fine. But I just think it's really funny how, like, there's kind of this new, like, dichotomy and, like, this new dynamic going on in WWE, where, like, one of my go-to complaints is I'm like, it does not always have to be clear-cut babyface versus heel. I think that's so annoying because it like, just put them, like, give us face versus face and just let people choose who they want to root for. Like, heel versus heel, let people pick who they want to root for. Like, I like when we don't have to stick to, like, this specific, like, script or, like, of, how do I want to, kind of like this like tradition of, like, it has to be babyface versus heel, because I think you lose a lot of opportunity that way. And I think now I really love the way that WWE is kind of playing into that. Like, obviously Liv should have been the babyface. It didn't go that way. So they were like, fuck it, let's lean into, like, her being the heel, even though she should be the babyface, versus Rhea, who's the babyface and should be the heel. And it's kind of like this weird, they're almost like both tweeners a little bit, and people are kind of just picking a side and running with it. And that's kind of the same thing with, like, Roman and Jay. And it's kind of like they're both, like, Jay's definitely babyface, but, like, Roman's kind of like a heel coming off as a baby, or a babyface coming off as a heel. I don't know how you would, like, he's supposed to be the heel, but he is the babyface, and he's kind of going up against his babyface. And then Sami comes in as a babyface. Jimmy just kind of chilling there. Solo's obviously the heel, and you kind of just have to, like, they're kind of moving them around and, like, playing the different stories, like, with the relationships in the background. You kind of just have to pick, like, whose side you're on. I love that. I love doing that so much. So I do think it's really cool how we're, like, getting into, like, it's layered. It's like it's very layered, and, like, who should be what, who is what, who do the fans like, and then the, like, dynamics of all the relationships, I think is so cool. And something that I think has been missing from wrestling for a while. So I'm super excited, and I kind of love what they're doing. But I just thought of that, like, kind of comparison. I made a TikTok on this, but I wanted to go, like, a little more in depth on it now. It's just, like, how cool it kind of is to have, like, the different layers and, like, dynamics of all these different relationships kind of coming together, and, like, consequences and, like, ramifications of, like, all these different things that happened in the past kind of catching up to you and now kind of dealing with them. And that's kind of what Rhea and Roman are both dealing with right now. And I think is really going off of that. And I want to talk about Liv Morgan specifically for a minute, because obviously Rhea is out right now with another injury. And I do believe that somebody said that it shouldn't be too long that she's out, which is great. But I want to talk about kind of the options for Liv to kind of move away from Rhea for a little bit. I know people have said Rhea has, like, a big spot set up for Mania. I feel like it's going to be Rhea Liv. Rhea probably takes the title back at Mania. But obviously, like, between now and then, Liv has to do something else. Like, one, with Rhea being out, but two, just, like, I feel like the story has been fumbled. There's been a lot of, like, it was the whole, like, Rhea and Damian are, like, too powerful and, like, too dominant for a while, and then, like, trying to, like, it almost felt like creative was kind of going back and forth with, like, they're too dominant, and then, like, but then the Judgment Day kind of does the same thing every week, and it's repetitive, and then it's like, and it just kind of, like, it felt very, like, clumsy, like, and I do think that the storyline was fumbled a little bit. There are a lot of complaints people have had about the storyline. I think that happens with literally everything in wrestling. So, like, I'm going to take all that with a grain of salt. But I do think that, like, I do think that it was fumbled a little bit. I feel like it could have been a lot better if we made, like, the Judgment Day a little stronger and made it more like, I mean, it's 2-on-5. Like, you know, Rhea and Damian, I think should definitely, like, they're very powerful. I do think definitely should have, like, sometimes won over the Judgment Day, but it was a lot at first, and then they kind of, like, really fell off of it. I know they make the joke that, like, Triple H, or not the joke, it is what he does, but, like, he sits in, like, Gorilla and, like, scrolls Twitter and, like, tries to see people's reactions. I feel like he was a little too impulsive sometimes with, like, running with like what people were complaining. Like if he got a consensus of like Rhea and Damien are too dominant, he like quickly was like, all right, next week they lose, or like next week like Judgment Day like overpowers them or whatever. And it feels like he kind of was taking what people were saying and just impulsively making these changes. And I appreciate him like wanting to give fans what they want, but I think it made things a little bit difficult to follow. Almost like it started to become a little like muddied, where like things didn't make sense totally, and things just felt a little bit off. So I do think that the storyline was fumbled a little bit. We should probably move away from it, but I'm super excited because I'm recording this Monday afternoon, so tonight she will be facing Io. I believe that's tonight. But she's gonna face Io. I really like, I know they kind of did this. I'd love to see them bring Zelina back into the equation. Zelina is such a good wrestler. She's such a good talent. She was amazing on the mic in those few promos that they did back and forth, like while Rhea was injured. But I would love to see her more in a consistent feud, like actual feud with Liv, for a little bit, because I do think they probably do. There's a good chance that they do like Dom and Ray again at Mania this year, and having Liv face Zelina is a great way to kind of put those two things together. I mean, Liv Io is going to be a great match. Io is such an amazing talent, but I would love to see like Zelina get in there. I'd love to see like Tiffany at some point like stay in the storyline just a little bit longer. I don't think she's going to cash in yet. I think it's going to be a while. One of the things that Johnny said is like Charlotte coming back and like Tiffany kind of cashing in with Charlotte and all that. I would kind of like to hold off on like Tiffany Charlotte. I know it's Tiffany's dream match, and I know that we could make it make sense on SmackDown, but I don't know. I kind of want to, I don't want to rush to that. Like, I don't want that to be like the first thing Tiffany, like in her first year on the main roster, she hits that like already. Like I like that we didn't immediately go into like a Bianca versus Jade feud. Like obviously that's coming, and I do think there's a good chance that happens by Mania and we get that one-on-one, but like I like that it didn't happen off the bat, and it gives us more time to like save a little bit for like down the road. So I'd like to hold off there. I would love to see a little bit more of like Tiffany kind of involved with Liv on the, the premise of like she's not going to cash in on Nia or like whatever, because Tiffany and Candice are kind of like fighting for Nia's attention. So I'd love to have Tiffany kind of worried about Liv's belt in the like interim of that. So I think down the line, like a Liv Bianca feud could be really fun. I'm assuming Liv kind of stays heel with Dom for a while, even after she potentially loses the title at Mania. So I'd love to see like her versus Bianca down the line as well. I think could be really fun. And speaking of fun, I want to talk about Jordynne Grace coming to WWE. It is all but confirmed. She like tweeted something about it a few months ago. So it's all but confirmed that she is coming to WWE when her contract with TNA is up. I think it's within the next few months or like early 2025. So I'm super excited to see her in WWE. The question is, does she go to NXT or does she go to the main roster? She's kind of done both. So like obviously mostly NXT with the NXT TNA like partnership that they've been doing. But she was also in the Rumble, which is, obviously mostly main roster. So I'm kind of interested to see where she goes. And I genuinely think that she could fit in either, but I think I'd like to see her in NXT. I normally don't say that. I normally feel like a lot of like big names who are like already established, I usually like to see them on the main roster. But NXT's women division is so fucking stacked. There are just like matches I want to see in NXT. Like I'd love to see like her and Roxanne have already gone at it, but I'd love to see like her and Julia, her and Stephanie Vaquer, her and Lash Legend, unless, I mean, they might bring up Lash and Jakara to the main roster by the time Jordan gets there, but I would love to see her like versus Lash. Her and like Sol Ruka is just like a favorite of mine that I'd kind of like to see happen. But there's just so much potential in the NXT women's like division that I would love to see Jordynne Grace maybe go to NXT first, just like kind of for funsies, to like see some dream matches and then go up to the main roster. But there's also so much potential if she goes straight to the main roster, which I could also see them doing, because just think about it. We would just be eating for like years. She could feud with, it would be Bianca. She could like with Jade, Charlotte, Tiffany, Liv, Lash, if she's up there. I don't know where Lash is going to be by the time she comes in. I feel like Lash is kind of already on her way up to the main roster, but then she was on NXT last week, so I don't really know what's happening. But so much potential. Rhea would be a great match for her. I'm trying to think. Nia could be kind of cool. There's Zelina. Io is one. I don't think we've seen Io, Jordynne Grace, right? I forget. I don't know. She's like, she is mixed with so many different things. But I would love to see all those. Like all of those. There's so much potential no matter where she goes. But I think you don't go main roster NXT usually. So I'd love to see her kind of start in NXT so we can get like some of those dream matches and then go up to the main roster. I'm also still kind of hoping that the women's war games is just like the NXT women's war games and we just kind of put them on the pay-per-view. I mean, that 5-on-5 match was so good. It was so entertaining. It was so much fun. It would be insane to see what they could do with a War Games match. Like it's usually like 45 minutes to an hour. Like that would be so fucking insane. It would be so good. I am dying. Please, please, please. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, whoever is in charge of this, please put the NXT women, take that 5-on-5 and just make it War Games. It would be so good. So every time that I do when I say what I said, I also like to talk about some of the more serious topics. And today is going to be a different one because I'm actually kind of calling out Cody Rhodes here. Cody is my guy. I have loved him since the Legacy. I always support Cody Rhodes, but I'm sure you guys have seen he made some recent comments about body shaming and I wanted to talk about it. I haven't seen people really stay on top of it too much. Like there was definitely a lot of backlash and like comments, concerns, like reactions to it when it first came out, but as per usual with WWE, it pretty much rolled off and under the rug after that. So I want to talk about it for a little bit because like I said, I think it almost gets overlooked. Like you kind of, talk about it for a few days and then like something cool happens on SmackDown and you like forget about it. So I just kind of want to touch on that for a moment because in a way I'm not surprised. In a way I'm kind of surprised, I think. And I think one of the big things about Cody is I think his marriage with Brandy, and like we all know that there's a lot about life and people that Brandy has taught him in their relationship and in their marriage and in life and all that, which is great and is amazing, and shout out to her for that. Thank you, girl. But I was still a little surprised by his comments because when he kind of approves body shaming, and I mean he was talking about himself, but he still kind of like implied that it was good across the board. That isn't just for like men, that also goes for women in the industry, which is a huge problem that we have already. And it's also kind of like not everybody wants to look like you. Not everybody wants to spend all that time in the gym, and not everybody can. I think a big thing, and this for me, this starts with women because all bodies are different. The way all of our bodies work is different, and like a good example is women's bodies is like that's a huge thing for us. And I read a while back there was this thing going around. I think it started on TikTok, and I kind of like read more into it. Is obviously like for women, we all like majority want like a flat stomach. That's kind of like the goal, right? And so that's something that like I have dealt with like on and off throughout my whole life, is like wanting like that flat stomach you see in the magazines and on TV and all that. And one of the things I learned over the last few years is like that may be impossible for some women based on just like your DNA, like your genetics, like your body just may not be built for that. And that doesn't mean like I'm gonna be super bloated my entire existence, but like I may, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm just like using myself as an example. I may just have like a body that is not going to be like that. I'm not going to look like Megan Fox. I'm not going to have like that super flat stomach. It might just be like a little like normal looking stomach, but like that's just might be how my body is built. And a lot of it is based on things like that, DNA, genetics, how your body just runs and works, and whatever the fucking scientific phrase for all the stuff I'm saying is, right? And that goes for men too. Like there are just some men who like don't want to or can't look like who's like Claudio. Like that's not gonna happen to everybody. Like, and a lot of these men use steroids. A lot of these guys aren't gonna want to use steroids, or like some just don't give a shit. Like fucking probably Kevin Owens or Eddie Kingston just don't care. So there's just a lot of different aspects to it that I do feel like it came off kind of tone deaf a little bit. And I'll read exactly what he said. So he said, this is a vanity business. There's this weird online contingent that doesn't realize how important physique is. We're wrestling with our shirt off, folks. It's okay to go to the gym. And you hear fans be like, you can't body shame wrestlers. What are you talking about? We're standing there half naked and you're paying hundreds of dollars to see us body shame me all you want. Can I just say, the whole like, we're standing there half naked and you're paying hundreds of dollars to see us feels like a weird sentence. Feels like, you know where I'm not going to say it, but like, you know where I'm going. It feels like a weird sentence. But anyway, he said, body shame me all you want. No. So I'm so glad that Cody is, you know, confident enough, dare I say, potentially arrogant a little bit, enough to take on online criticism and kind of run with it. But like, there's a lot of people that aren't. And respectfully, we're not paying money. I'm not paying money to be like, who looks like they went to the gym today? Like, I don't care. I'm there for entertainment. I'm there for like the flippy shit. I'm there for storylines. I'm there for Daddy Dom. I am not there to like double check that y'all like hit your weight this week. Like I that's never occurred to me. Like, and I know we talk about like Randy came back and was like super jacked, and like AJ Styles came back and was super jacked and like all this stuff. But like, that's not like, we're like, oh, like that's cool. And like, we make a joke about it, but we talk about it for like 2 seconds and then we're done. Like, that's never been the focus, at least in my experience, like watching wrestling. Like, we do a podcast multiple times a week. That has never been like the focus. Like, we talk about like Pac is like, I think Johnny says like chiseled from stone or something. But like, it's not like a focus. Like, you know, he says that and I'm like, well, still fuck Pac because he's being mean to Wheeler, you know, like that's just not, it's not the focus of it. And I think it just makes, it does come off really tone deaf, unfortunately, Cody, because it's not, he's like, body shame me all you want. Okay, well, there's a lot of people out there that don't feel that way. And if you're telling people it's okay to do that, then they're going to body shame people like Eddie Kingston has dealt with that for a really, really long time. He doesn't handle it well, respectfully, but it does, like, he doesn't react the way that Cody reacts, where he's like, oh, that's true, I should go hit the gym. Like, that's just not a thing. And then, like, even if Cody's like, that's not okay to body shame, people are going to body shame the women anyway. So when you're saying, yeah, you're paying hundreds of dollars to see us body shame us, that's just giving these ignorant, awful people, like, the okay to go body shame women more. Like, Deonna Purrazzo got body shamed because they were like, oh, they were like, oh, she looks like fucking bloated. She looks like she's pregnant. She looks normal. She looks fucking normal. Like, not everybody is going to look like they came out of a Victoria's Secret magazine. Like, I love Kelly Kelly. Not everybody fucking looks like that. Okay. Not everybody looks like Maurice. I also love Maurice, but not everybody looks like that. It's just not. And it shouldn't be that way, because then everybody's going to be carbon copies of the same fucking thing. And then it's going to be boring, and then no one cares. And then also what's crazy is you wouldn't have people like Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley started her career as like, she had like long blonde hair, and she talked about it recently, where she was like trying to fit in, and then her career fucking took off the moment she was like, fuck that, I'm just gonna be myself. And now she's like one of the biggest wrestlers in the industry. There are people who have never seen wrestling a day in their lives who are like, I love Rhea Ripley, like, she's hot, I love her, she's amazing. Like, she does not look anything like the standard like Victoria's Secret model that you would see, and everybody loves her for it. It's just, it was just really irritating, and I wish that more people, like, he definitely got some backlash, but I do wish that people in like more big names like kind of stuck on it a little bit. But I wanted to take some time to talk about it. I am hoping that nobody who follows my content is somebody who thought that like those comments were cool. So if you did, I just corrected you, and now you understand the whole thing, I would hope, right? Cool. Okay. But yeah, those are the things I wanted to talk about. Mostly positive, mostly super exciting. But I always like to talk about the good and the bad in wrestling on my I Said What I Said. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow me everywhere and do all those fun things. And I appreciate you watching, and thank you so much.